My name is Shawn, in case you don't know, and welcome back to another video. So I just finished listening to the third book in the Cirque de Freak series, and the first three books in the series are part of like a trilogy. Like each three books in the Cirque de Freak series is a little trilogy. I'm looking up the name of the first trilogy right now so that I get it right. So the first trilogy is called the Vampire Blood Trilogy, and I sort of want to like review and give my thoughts on the first three books because this series gave me a lot of feels. In case you didn't watch my previous book video, which was an audiobook adventure type thing, I got a concussion on the 2nd of January. And when I'm filming this, this will definitely be uploaded like a month later, but when I'm filming this, it is January 13th. So it's been 11 days since I got my concussion, and it can take up to 14 days to recover, and I'm not better at all. I have a massive headache right now. I probably shouldn't be filming, but I just need to say my thoughts on this series, okay? But basically, when you get a concussion, you aren't allowed to look at your phone screen or any screen very often, and you aren't allowed to read physical books. And so basically, the lady at the doctor that I went to said that I can either do audiobooks, podcasts, or listen to music. And the thing is, like, I like listening to music, but I have to be doing something when I'm listening to music. Then podcasts, like, I mean, they're okay, but they're not the greatest. So I was like, I'm gonna try audiobooks because I've never really gotten into them, but like maybe they'll be nice. And I've been listening to a ton of audiobooks. Well, I had my concussion and I used all my audiobook credits, so now I'm just listening to the free audiobooks. And I found out that the Cirque de Freak series is free on Audible if you have an Audible subscription. I've been listening to it. It is a vampire series, and that's what sparked my interest in it. And yeah, let me just share my thoughts on this series because I felt a lot of feels and emotions while reading it. And this series is by Darren Shan, and Darren Shan is actually the name of the main character in the series, which I find interesting. So the actual author used this pen name Darren Shan and wrote it as if like Darren Shan were writing like the stories of what happened to him and his crazy adventures and things. So I found that sort of interesting. I'm not really sure who the actual author is. I don't know if people know who he actually is or she, but yeah, this series started coming out in 2002, and so I just want to note right now, like, I was troubled that there is barely any diversity in the series, but like it was published in 2002, which I guess is like, is it 11 years ago? Because 2021 now, so it was published like 11 years ago, so I guess it makes sense that there isn't too much diversity, but it was still disappointing. Wait, 11 years ago? Wait. That doesn't add up. 2002 to 2012, 19 years ago. It was published 19 years ago. I can do math. I took math all the way up through statistics. I can do math. Let's just pretend that I didn't screw up the calculation at the start of me saying that. So the first book was A Living Nightmare, and I gave A Living Nightmare 3 stars. The thing is, like, I felt very nauseous reading this book because there's like this spider, and most of the plot revolves around like this spider in the first book, and I was like, no thanks, no thanks. I literally can't handle spiders. Like, I can handle Aragog and Harry Potter because I don't know, he just looks a little fakeish in the movie, I guess, and in the book it didn't creep me out because like I knew he was fake because he's like this giant spider with unrealistic proportions. But like, after knowing that there's huge spiders in Australia and like some South American countries, I was like, no thanks, this is too realistic for me. And then the first book, I was like, I didn't really like any of the characters. Like, they weren't that great, but the book was like very addicting, and I finished it in like a day or two, and it's only like a 6-hour audiobook or 5 hours, so it's not too long. They're all under 6 or 5 hours, so they're pretty easy to fly through. But I was like, no thanks, I don't like the spider, the characters aren't that great. But I was like, this series is free. It was somewhat enjoyable because I did get the vampire moments that I was desiring at the end of the book. So I was like, I'm gonna continue with this series. So I didn't have too many thoughts on A Living Nightmare. The next one is The Vampire's Assistant. And oh my lord, I wouldn't say that I was crying, but I was very close to crying for what happened at the end of the book. My favorite character died. And I will not tell you which character that is because I want you to be surprised. But like, there's a new character that's introduced in The Vampire's Assistant, and he's like my favorite character, and he's just so fantastic. He's like the pure, innocent, sweet little cinnamon roll type character, and I always love every character like that. And then a character dies that destroyed my heart, and the way that he died destroyed my heart, and I was like on the verge of crying, and I just could not handle it at all. It was one of the saddest things that I've ever read, and this is a middle grade series, and this kid died in like a brutal and graphic way described in detail, and his friend watched as he was being killed, and I was like, are you kidding me? Also, you might have just seen that I have thrush. Don't judge me. I have dry mouth from medication for cottage thrush. But anyways, I'm working on treatment. But anyways, back to the vampire's assistant. So like, it was so sad, and it was one of my favorite fictional characters of all time in there, but then I was like, oh, how did you do this? Why did you do this? Why can't you just introduce good characters and keep them alive? Darren also grew on me a little bit in this book, because I feel like in the first book he was very like centered and on himself and selfish, because like in the first book, I'm not gonna like spoil exactly what happens, but Darren was wanting to stay out of jail for something he did more than he wanted to save his friend's life, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't care that you are a child. I hate you. You are selfish. So like, he improved by the vampire's assistant. Like, he's a little bit of a person, he's a little more interesting of character, you can really see his character growth. I also like that the vampires in the series aren't like traditional vampires, because the two types of vampires that you traditionally see are like the I will suck your blood and like the fangs, and like the I will suck your blood thing, like I'm thinking of like Twilight, I guess, even though they aren't like that. Do they even have fangs in Twilight? I don't know, I've only read 2 books. But like, you know what I mean? Like the vampire fangs. There's that type of vampire, and then there's also like the supernatural type of vampire with like the several spiky teeth that still like suck the blood, you know? And I appreciate that this series took a very different spin on vampires, and it was interesting. And I'm gonna watch the Cirque du Freak movie at some point, but the issue with that is that I read the description of the movie, and it says something like Darren's life gets changed from the bite of a vampire or something, and I was like, what are you talking about? Because this take on vampires, I'm not going to spoil how they do it, but when you get changed into a vampire, it isn't like the traditional like bite the neck, and it isn't the traditional like, I guess, drink the vampire blood or whatever. It's like different and unique, and I was like, did the movie really just change that? Anyways, on to my thoughts on the third book. So the third book is my favorite of the series so far. I gave it 4 stars. The first 2 books I each gave 3 stars. And the reason why I gave this one 4 stars is because it was more interesting, and we got more diversity in this book. So we got a girl named Debbie, and Debbie, first of all, isn't white. Her skin is described very briefly as being darker than Darren, who's white. So I was like, I appreciate that. And then she was a little more in the story than the other females in the story, so I was like, okay, thank you for introducing a female character that's a little more of a main character, but she like wasn't strong, so I was still a little disappointed by her. But like, she's probably my second favorite character in the series. And this one I liked because it had a happy ending, and the other ones didn't really have happy endings. And sure, like I was crying and like having so many emotions because I thought 2 of my favorite characters were about to die, but like the author was just psyching us out. They're fine. They're absolutely fine. Everything's fine. This one was like really scary though, and my heart was actually like racing, and I legitimately felt scared. And I was like, I can handle World War Z. I can handle Walking Dead. I can handle Supernatural. Why am I scared by this? But I was, and it was very gruesome, and again I was like, why is this book for 9 to 12-year-olds? Because it was so gruesome and like gory that I was getting a little nauseous, and that doesn't happen too often for me. And yeah, I really liked Tunnels of Blood, and I don't like the narrator of the audiobooks. Like, his voice is really annoying, not gonna lie, but it has been an enjoyable experience so far to listen to them. I can listen to like 1 in a day, or if I start midday, then I can listen to 1 in 2 days and just like do half a day one day, half a day the other day. So overall, I'm enjoying this series. It isn't like the best series in the world, but it's really addicting, and I feel like the author has a good style of writing, and there are some interesting characters later in the series. So for the trilogy of the first 3 books, the Vampire Blood trilogy, I think my ratings overall averaged to about like 3 stars. So I gave it 3 stars, but 3 stars to me is like, it either means that it's okay or it's enjoyable, but it's not like I would say that it's like amazing, if you see what I mean. So like, I do like it. It's not the most amazing series in the world, but it's free on Audible. It's vampires. It is interesting, and yeah, I recommend it if you are looking for a free book on Audible or free series on Audible. I just need to say some general content warnings for this series really quickly. So there is very violent and graphic things in this series. There is some animal death and animal murder. Not animal murder so much as like a tiger kills someone, but like a human kills an animal. There's obviously content warnings for blood because it is vampires, content warnings for needles, and cannibalism. So yeah, hopefully you check out this series if you want a free Audible book to listen to. Also, if you've read this series and you want to like scream about it with me, feel free to. We can scream about it and cry about it together because I have felt so many emotions from just the first 3 books in this 12-book series. And like, it's a middle grade book. I wasn't expecting to feel so many emotions and to get so emotional and to get so scared, but yet here I am. Anyways, if you like this video, feel free to give it a big old thumbs up and subscribe to me if you haven't already. I appreciate all of you who have subscribed so far. If you would like to, I have my Bookstagram, Goodreads, Instagram, all of the social media stuff. It's all down in the description below in case you want to follow me there. I upload a book related video every Tuesday on my YouTube channel, so stick around for more videos like this one. Hopefully by the time that this video is uploaded, I no longer have a concussion. I hope all of you have a fantastic week, and I will see all of you in my next video. Goodbye!